I'm Nick Jakern of Nick Jakern Financial Solutions, Senior Investment Advisor and Director of Private Client Group.
Nick Jakern Financial Solutions is a full-service brokerage firm in Toronto, Ontario, and has been in business for more than 20 years, servicing and building lifelong relationships with his clients. Have peace of mind knowing that you're financially secure and stable. Nick Jakern offers a range of financial services. To learn more, visit us at nickjakernfinancialsolutions.com or contact us today at 416-412-4272.
All natural sweetener, Flavorall. 20 flavors to choose from. The perfect substitute for sugar and artificial sweeteners.
Flavorall by Greenish.
Flavorall from Greenish, now available at Rexall pharmacies.
What is Canadian political scene nowadays? This is debate today in TAG TV's Behind the News with Halima Saadia. I have with me as usual in studio Dr. Sharda ji and along with him a political analyst Tahir Aslam Gora. Let's start our debate and I'll come to you Dr. Sab. What do you see? How is our political scene, the painting of politics in Canada today?
I will use one word. That word is confusion. Canadian politics now at this moment is very much confused. Most of the leaders are not aware what exactly they want to do. They are working on their policies. They are coming up with their policies. This was the time that the Conservatives could have taken full advantage of the failures of Justin Trudeau government. It is not happening. Yes, there is a survey which says that the Conservatives are ahead than Trudeau. But Justin has one quality, that he can go and mix with each and every kind of personality. Whereas the Conservatives, they don't have that kind of a leader. That's number one. So people are also confused exactly what Scheer wants to do. About Trudeau, they know that in the last 4 years, he has taken Canada to the worst position today in the world. I mean, we don't have good relations with China, we don't have good relations with India, we don't have good relations with America. With whom we have good relations? Except one gentleman, Mr. Macron, who is as young as he is perhaps, and they both are, you know, when they meet, even today, Trudeau is in Paris, and when they meet, they feel that they are brothers. Sometimes they think they are twin brothers. They think in that way. But that's not the way to run country. To run a country, you have to be friends with most of the countries in the world. And especially those two big economies which are emerging and which has emerged, China and India. And if you are not having good terms with those two countries, what are you doing? So I personally feel that the third party which has come up has not been able to convince Canadians that there is another alternative. NDP has failed miserably under the leadership of Jagmeet Singh, and Green Party is emerging in certain areas of Canada. Now, Green Party will hurt NDP as well as Liberal Party. It is the time for the Conservatives to wake up. It is a call to them to wake up and start working with the people of Canada.
So I'll come to you, Tahir. How do you see this confusion, political scene and Canada?
Dr. Sharda used one word for Canadian political scenario, confusion. I would add actually one more word, rather I would emphasize more on this word, is immature. Immaturity of Canadian politicians, Canadian political scenario at the moment. Absolutely immature Prime Minister, in my opinion, has put us in debt, in bad image around the world, one thing. On the other hand, I had hope with the conservative opposition leader, Mr. Scheer, but eventually I lost that hope as well, because it's not just about the conservative leader, Mr. Scheer, it's the whole conservative caucus. I mean, I have encountered many conservative elite people. They are absolutely immature, and they are on the same footstep what Mr. Trudeau has done for Canada. They are trying to, conservatives are trying their best to push themselves toward center left. I mean, they are caught up in political correctness. As Dr. Sharda mentioned, that Mr. Trudeau had the worst relationship with India particularly, even not great relationship with the United States. Relationship with China, I understand it. I give them little credit that they took stand, but they only took stand against China, but they didn't do enough to counter China as Mr. Harper did. So these two immature leaders, I have to say it very clearly, Mr. Trudeau and Scheer, not just the two immature faces on the front, surrounded by immature politicians in their caucus.
So when
they have ruined the Canadian political scenario, sadly. And like, let me add one thing. In terms of relationship with India, for instance, Harper was a great prime minister. I really have great regard for him. He built great relationship with the United States, with India, and he gave tough messages to China, as well as he didn't lose business with China. But Trudeau failed in this policy, and now Mr. Scheer is annoying Canadians of Indian origin. He is not denouncing his own conservative Senator Salmata Ullah Jan, who has openly supported Khalistanis. Mr. Scheer and his caucus people are now closely linked with Islamists in Canada, and there are chains of incidences. Voters are losing hope with conservative as well.
Halima ji, this was one of the best chance I have seen. I am watching politics from 1968 in Canada, when first time Trudeau's father, Justin Trudeau's father, Elliott Pierrot, he became the Prime Minister. This is one of the best year in economy. This Prime Minister should have got more than 200 seats. But can you imagine, even with this economy, with this kind of 3.5% unemployment, this Prime Minister has not been able to relate to the Canadians. Even then he is running second.
How much is it in the wake of popularism, how much is it is important to have a strong leader, and as Tahir said that they are the front faces. So how much it is the behind machinery which is failing, or the front line is failing? So how will you both comment on that?
No, I simply say that 80% MPs and 80% ministers, they even didn't know for the first 6 months, they even didn't know how to act as an MP. Forget about the minister. They did not understand their ministries for 6 months. And afterwards also they have been led by the bureaucrats. Now the ministries are being run by the bureaucrats. Only few ministers are, you can say, effective, who can put their own words and get the policy done. Rest of the ministers, they are being guided by the 100% bureaucrats. Now when bureaucracy takes over, democracy is always in danger. I hope, I mean, this is a small country, just 36 million people. There is no danger as such to the democracy. But imagine, out of 10 states, 8 states are now being run by the opposition parties. Only 2 states are left with the liberals. When we talk about the 8 states, the conservatives, if the leader was good, this would have been the walk-in for the conservatives, which is not happening. All I can say is, yes, future as such, whosoever may become the prime minister, doesn't look very good. I can give you the economic data, I can give you the social data, that how bad we have become. When I came here in '68 first time, at that time only 2% was a black market. Today, the government figures say between 17 to 20% there is a black market. So this economy is going towards the developing countries like India, Pakistan and other countries.
So Tahir, do you see, as I could get from him, it's the leadership crisis, and it's the crisis of very mature, as you said, politicians who understand the realities while we are sitting in a global scenario. What is your take on that?
Certainly a leadership crisis, as well as is the crisis of the political parties' machinery. As you said, that there are few frontline faces and then many elite caucus people in both major parties. We can see their failure, particularly conservatives, because liberals already have incumbents most of the seats in Greater Toronto area. Conservatives needed to win those ridings. They had those seats with them in Harper government time. Now they needed to get those seats back because they lost in previous election. And the candidates they have acclaimed or they have selected or so-called elected, most of them are so weak, I see less hope for them to get those seats back for conservatives. One thing. Secondly, there is another issue, particularly with conservative, because that was the hope for us. Dr. Sharda and I and people and many old-time conservatives, we wanted to see conservatives come back to fix our economy, to fix political correctness, to eliminate identity politics, to eliminate extreme multiculturalism. But rather doing that, it's not just economy, I would say, because economy and these things go hand in hand. I mean, you cannot fix economy without fixing these things. So this is the biggest issue. And the third option, what Dr. Sharda is saying, Maxime Bernier, who stood against that extreme multiculturalism, and when he talked about identity politics, when he talked about political correctness, it was not just about ethnic communities or immigration. He talked about it at all levels, at corporations, tax reforms, immigration reform and all those. Maxime Bernier is an honest guy. What he speaks makes sense, but I understand that he still needs lots of groundwork to create that kind of populism what Trump did, because he's a straightforward guy. But still a lot of work ahead for Maxime and his party to make it a big voice for Canadians.
It would have been the easiest cake to eat for the conservatives if the Bernier at that time would have won the election, which he did win. West is always for the conservatives. I mean, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, they are always with the conservatives. What was the need to impose a man from the West on the Conservative Party? There was no need whatsoever. If you take a man, you cannot become the Prime Minister unless and until you win 40% seats from the Quebec. Now, if Bernier was there as a leader, he could have won easily 40 to 50% seats of the Quebec. He would have won the eastern part of Ontario, and out of 32 seats from the Atlantic provinces, he would have got 50%. But this was the biggest mistake of these leaders sitting there from the West. This East and West, this sometimes become a big problem for the Canadian. And in future, I tell you, you will see that there will be a demand in the Western states that let's become independent from Canada. And that is the biggest danger I see in the next 10 years.
So Jason Kenney has already mentioned that. Let's come back to the carbon tax controversy, political correctness and scandals. So scandals is a big issue. So whoever we want, We push ahead, whoever we want, we pull back. So is it a healthy sign for politics, or how we are going to maneuver it?
Corruption is never healthier anywhere in the world, whether Canada, America or any other country. Now, SNC-Lavalin, we know, has become a big problem for Trudeau, but he has won the hearts of the Quebec. Now, Admiral case, that also is going to be the real pain in the neck for Justin Trudeau. But there is no opposition leader who could exploit this, but no one did it. Now, Admiral case is one of the another fantasy for the Liberals. So, corruption as such is always there. He brought one very good point, that the candidates which have been chosen by the Conservative Party are not only amateurish, they cannot even win their own seats. They have no contribution whatsoever in the society. When you haven't contributed at the basic level, how can you expect to go and contest election from MP and go and represent the people? 20-30% people even don't know what is MP, and they are contesting the elections.
Tahir, what will be your take on the failure of democracy and pushing and pulling and controversies and scandals? How would you comment on that?
No, I wouldn't say the failure of democracy. I would say the inability of political parties at the moment. I mean, Liberals, especially in Greater Toronto area and in Quebec, they have their strong hold still, and it was kind of a obligation or the kind of a duty of Conservative Party to save Canadians from Liberals. I would say Liberals' incompetency for the past 4 years. But unfortunately, Conservatives absolutely failed. They just followed their footstep in terms of installing their selection committees for candidates, and they did worse than Liberal even. And I mean, if that was the kind of the progress Conservatives wanted to do during the past 4 years, this was not meant for Canadians. Canadians wanted to get rid of Liberal government, but now Canadians have no choice. I see lots of protest votes now. I see lots of protest votes, even from Liberals. If they wouldn't vote for Liberals, they can't vote for Conservative. They would vote for other parties. That's the scenario I clearly see in coming elections.
Dr. Sab said the right word, confusion. It's a political confusion. So let's come back to Maxime Bernier. I really like one of the media talks he was having, and he said one of the communities people stood up and he said, "What you are going to do for our community?" He said, "Nothing." And then he smiled and he said, "Because I'm standing for Canadians, and Canadians, this is exclusive that everybody is Canadian. So why we are asking for communities to be appreciated specially or taken some kind of extra treatment?" What's your take, Doctor?
One thing is very clear. This was started by Jason Kenney, whether Tahir Sahab likes it or not. He was the person who started going to the communities. Conservative Party never did that. He started policing Punjabi communities, East Indian communities, Muslim communities and other communities as such. It was started by him and then picked up by the Liberals. Now Liberals are totally divided in Southeast Asia, their concentration, and their concentration on Muslim votes and their concentration on other so-called groups. Now this was never there before. It only started, I don't know, I would like him to comment on this, whether he is a friend or not, but still the thing which was bad is bad. That was not the philosophy of the Conservative Party.
I would absolutely like to clarify it. I have seen Liberals and NDP pleasing different communities before Jason Kenney jumped into this kind of politics. When I started watching Jason Kenney, Jason was not not that cruel to Canadians. He intermingled with different communities. He was good in terms of remembering the names of community leaders and all that. But he never sold conservative ideology to those communities. But Mr. Scheer and his elite behind him intermingled recently with such radical imam, for instance, who actually supported, unfortunately, beating wives. And he had a great picture with him. He even did not denounce his conservative senator Salma Taullah Jan, who openly supports Islamism, who openly supports Khalisani division of India. So the Conservative Party has no guts now. If Jason Kenney would have been a leader of the Conservative Party of Canada today, despite his friendship with all communities, he was the man who would definitely denounce it.
I think we agree to disagree.
If there would have been any error of identity politics by Jason, this conservative elite could have corrected it. But rather correcting it, they furthered that agenda and destroyed Conservative Party.
I would take this sentence out of all your argument, that Jason was actually very sincere to Canada, regardless of how we see it pro or against.
I don't want to say that our political parties and politicians are not sincere to Canada. They are sincere to Canada.
Everyone is sincere.
They are sincere, but I would not say very sincere, because they are immature. Unfortunately, we live in an age of below mediocre politics, sadly, immature politicians, but sadly are not very visionary people.
So, for politician and political leadership, or for being a prime minister, you have to have a vision to lead the whole thing. That we saw a glimpse in Stephen Harper when he was a very strong leader.
It's a bad luck that he had to go. I think there were other good leaders also, but the West did not allow them to come up. And so they brought their own henchman Scheer, which is a sad part for the Conservative. I think maybe after this elections, after October elections, there may be a change. But if people are so fed up with Trudeau that they say, okay, good or bad, we are going to bring Conservative, then he will be the Prime Minister.
So let's come back to Maxime Bernier. Right now, if we see the thrive and the kind of frustration people are having, Maxime from the very beginning till now is offering a relatively better kind of package for Canadians, then why he is not being appreciated as he should have been?
The reason is very simple. He has not been able to connect with the common people. He has to connect with the common man, and he has not been able to do it. And he doesn't have the time and resources now for the next 6 months to do it. Whatever he may does, even if he wins 2 or 3 seats, I mean, that's all I give him, not more than that. But he can definitely spoil, if he takes 5 to 7% votes, he can definitely spoil the majority of the Conservative Party. Now, whether it is right or wrong, I don't know. But I think he needs to come out of the shell. Maybe advisors, there are some advisors who can tell him that he should go and try to connect with the people. Last time, the NDP leader was winning. He lost in the last 20 days because he could not connect with the voters. He was one of the finest, perhaps, a parliamentarian. So it is very important, any leader who wants to become a prime minister, he or she has to be a real connection with the masses.
Maxime Bernier resonates common Canadian concerns and their issues. But the thing is, time is not that sufficient. And resources...
Time and resources.
Yes. And the resources People's Party of Canada at this moment don't have much, but I can see Maxime Bernier traveling massively from east to west these days. They are putting their candidates all over wherever possible. What Dr. Sharda said, at least they are creating a wave. I don't know what would happen exactly closer to the election time. Maybe they'll have more kind of a voice, but for sure they are getting very mature candidates. And Maxime is very clear about ideology. So at least he will have a sort of a alternate voice, or alternate political scenario for Canadians.
Imagine we have seen in the past that Conservative Party was broken in Alberta. The NDP came into power. Conservative Party was broken in Canada, and the Liberals ruled for under Cratchit for 13 years, 15 years. And when they joined the hands together, I salute Peter MacKay. That was he was the person. He should have been the leader. But anyway, Harper also came, not a bad leader. So I personally feel that Bernier can create this kind of an atmosphere in the next 4 years, that there will be a split in the Conservative. It is possible. And then afterwards, maybe with one thought, they again come together. But if they split, then there is no way they can ever come.
No, there is already split in Conservative Party.
Let's talk again about the future and the directions. These are the 2 points about the politics which we need to see, that even with Maxime People's Party also, like, so where do you see the future is going, to which direction?
Again one word, uncertain. Okay, the future is uncertain because people are not clear. People have not committed themselves. Otherwise, really 5-6 months earlier they committed themselves either to the Conservative, Liberal, NDP, whatever. But the people are confused at this moment. They don't know what to do it because there are no clear agenda by any party. Trudeau, they have seen it. I mean, I talk to the Liberals, real Liberals, who have voted for Liberals for the last 30 years. And they come and they tell me they are not going to vote this time to Liberal at any cost. That's number one. But who's going to take the advantage of that? I don't know. All I can say is there is uncertainty.
What is your take?
No, absolutely. As I said earlier, there would be a protest vote, and there would be a very divided mandate.
So in the end, I would throw a last question to both of you. So what are your suggestions for the political scenario to be a little better, little certain, and little towards the right direction?
Halima, who's going to bother what I suggest or what I suggest? It is a simple thing that the people who are running the parties, they have to think about it. They have to see how to, really put these parties into a certain high gear. How they can do it, this is for them to decide. We can only just request them, please take the actions, try to convince the people, bring your agenda back as it used to be. Don't mingle here or there just for the bank of vote. Don't do it. Stick to your principles, and if you don't want to stick, then let's make merge Conservative and Liberal as one.
Yeah, I mean, Conservative and Liberal, they are almost on the same track, except for some differences. Both want to win. They don't care now about Canadians' real concerns, Canadians' real issues, and Canadian values. That's very important for me. Both don't care anymore. They are just going to all identity political pockets, just with the hope that they would make government. And if any one of those, of course, one of these parties looks like would make government, would be minority government. If anyone is able to make a majority government, that would not be very sort of a relief for Canadians. As we have seen, a majority government by Liberals so far is not a big relief.
Thank you very much for watching TAG TV's Behind the News with Halima Saadia today.